Today on Boring Gear Reviews, we have the Holy Island Audio Deforming. Huge thanks to Guion from Holy Island Audio for sending me the Deforming. Okay, so the Deforming is the new pedal dropping from Holy Island Audio this Friday, December 15th, and it is a PT2399 Based Delay with an envelope-controlled warp function. So essentially what that means is we have a delay with the ability via foot switch and a couple knobs to control it to simulate what it's like when you twist the time knob on a delay pedal. But in this case, instead of having to drop down and do it with your hands, you can set it up and then control it with your feet. And there was also an outstanding preamp in this pedal, which, not for nothing, if he released just the preamp, I'd want that on my board too. All right, so for controls, we have time, and that'll obviously control the length between the repeats. Then we have reflection, which will be like your feedback control. Blend is blending your wet and dry signal. It's never completely dry or completely wet. There's always some of both in either side. Input is your preamp, and like I said, it sounds amazing, but it can also really boost your signal to add some more grittiness or dirt, or you can roll it back a lot to clean it up. And then we have waveform, which is a four-way switch, and that'll determine how the warp function functions. So the first position for the waveform is down, second is down, up, third is up, down, and then the fourth is up. And that's how the warp function will behave. So for example, if it's in the first position, the down setting, and you hit the foot switch, it'll like kind of pitch bend down. If it's in the up down, it'll go up first and then drop down. You get the idea. As a quick side note, on these demo units that were sent out, there's 8 positions, but the production model will have 4. So just so you know, like I'll say what position it's in, but it'll look different on, the screen from what you see. And then finally, we have length, which will control the length of the warp function. So all the way counterclockwise, and it'll be very quick. And then the more clockwise you turn it, the more it gets stretched out. And that can also be controlled via CV. And the note about the warp foot switch, once you press it, it will trigger the envelope. So whether you press it and let it go or hold it down, it's still going to function the same way. For today's demo, I'll be using my 2021 Dunnable Yeti Custom, and this has Dunnable Grizzly pickups. These are custom wound to be low output and unpotted. And from there, we'll be going into my UAD Apollo X6, and as always, I'll be running the JMP2203 amp sim from Softtube. All right, in this first clip, we're going to begin with just the deforming on, and this is one of the most warm, analog, chewy sound. I say those terms a lot, like warm and chewy, not a lot, but when it comes up. And I feel like after the deforming, every time I say that, it has to be measured against the deforming because it is the warmest, the chewiest. It just sounds so good. So to get that sound, we're going to max the time. We're going to almost max the reflections, maybe like just past 3 o'clock. We're going to have the blend just past noon. Input is maxed. We're going to have the waveform in the 4th position, so in the up position, and then the length of that will be at noon. In the second half of the clip, we're going to engage the Glass Palace from Holy Island Audio. If you'd like to see a full demo of the Glass Palace, click the link right here. And in this case, we're going to have the deforming running into the Glass Palace. So like I said, warm, chewy. It's just, I have a feeling I'm just going to keep saying that for this whole video, but it really is just such a gorgeous sound. The way the deforming, it never runs away with self-oscillation. It'll start to almost feed back, but it'll stay really contained. So you can get a beautiful, like almost like a harmonic feedback pad under what you're playing, and that's what we're doing. And then, in the later half of the clip, when I turn on the Glass Palace, it gets just really big and aggressive is the wrong word because like it still feels very kind of inviting. It's not harsh or off-putting, but just the way these pair together is literally perfect. And it'll be very clear when I'm using the warp function. One thing I love about this is it's not gimmicky at all. It's super, super musical. So enjoy. In this next section, we're going to start with the glass palace, and that'll go into the deforming. And here we're going to have the time at 11, the reflections at 9, the blend at 3, the input at 11. We're going to be in the first waveform, so the downward one, and then the length will be around 3 o'clock as well. In the last part of the clip, I'm going to engage the Generation Loss Mark II from Chase Bliss Audio for some really, really lo-fi stuff. And that'll all be going into the Meris Mercury 7 for like a not too big plate reverb. So the way we have it set in the beginning is kind of like a very gritty, low-ish to mid-gain, somewhere between there, with like a slap back sound. If you've been subscribed for a bit, you'll know how much I love mid-gain with slap back and reverb. It's one of my all-time favorite sounds. So what I found really exciting here was it almost feels like there's two guitars happening, one because of the slapback stuff, but then as I'm doing the warp stuff with the deforming, it feels like the second guitar is doing that because you still hear the regular, like the straight guitar signal on top of it. It just makes for such a cool texture. Oftentimes when you have pedals that'll dive pitch and stuff, it sounds like that's just happening with the one instrument, which is fine, it's awesome. But in here, it does sound like there's more going on because you have my straight signal and then the warping one behind it. Then when the gen loss comes in, obviously it'll be very clear when it happens, but I'm going to use the warp functions of the deforming to add just like little kind of like dips in the signal. So much like you would hear if you're like, pulling or pushing on the tape. So it's going to kind of little dips and drops. It's so, so cool. All right, next up, we're really going to push the reflection. So we're going to have like as close to self-oscillation as you get without going there. And like I said in the beginning, it just makes for this beautiful, very, harmonically rich pad, or I guess pad is the wrong word, but like a harmonically rich reverb essentially under the playing. So the glass palace is in again, and in the beginning it'll be just the deforming, and then I'll use the boost side of the glass palace, and then both sides, and then back to just the boost side with the deforming. And for our deforming settings, we're going to have the time maxed, reflections maxed, the blend at 10, the input is maxed. We're going to be in number 3, so that's up, down, and then the length is going to be almost off. So I don't know, what is that? It's 8 o'clock, something like 7 o'clock. One thing to really know about the deforming is no matter where you set the blend control, it's always sitting really well with everything else going on. Often with delays, if you boost the mix too high, it'll, just go nuts, or it'll feel kind of disjointed. This never hits that spot for me. It always, like any type of setting you have, it really just feels like, yeah, that belongs there. It feels right. That balance to me is something that really kind of stands out about Holy Island Audio. Like all of Guion's stuff tends to feel very, very well balanced and thought out. And at the very end, I'm going to play with the time knob a little bit for just some traditional hand manipulation, time warping stuff, which is very fun. And yeah, just gorgeous sound. Enjoy. And in this last clip, we're going to start with the deforming, and that'll be going into the glass palace. So I hope it comes across that because I'm constantly changing these back and forth, how versatile the deforming is. It really can sit anywhere in your signal chain and be super useful and very musical. Like I said, it just never feels out of place. So here we're going for a similar type of slapback thing, but way more pronounced. So we're gonna have the time at noon, the reflections at noon, the blend will be around 2 o'clock, input at 1, we're gonna have the waveform in the second position, so down, up, and then the length on that will be maxed. And the glass palace will be doing the heavy lifting for distortion with both channels on most of the time. So to me, this almost creates like a room, like a large room reverb with a big pre-delay setting. It just feels massive and expansive and just really interesting. The deforming, yes, it's a delay, but it really just adds a ton of texture and a lot of excitement to your playing. And the last part of the clip for me is one of my favorite things that I've done on this channel. I'm going to do big, heavy, distorted chords at the bottom, and then when I hit a higher note, I'm going to engage that warp function, and the way it just dive bombs but still maintains my original note, it was everything to me. It sounds so huge, really intense, aggressive, but also still very cohesive and, like I said, warm and chewy. And that's a wrap for the Deforming from Holy Island Audio. Like I said in the beginning, these go on pre-order sale this Friday, December 15th, 2023. So get on that. For sure, these are not going to stick around long. So yeah, awesome stuff. And while I'm on the subject of cool Holy Island Audio stuff, Guion also has a podcast that he does with Simon from Tunnel of Reverb. Subscribe to both their channels, linked in the description below. They both make outstanding gear demos. And like I said, they have a podcast called No Gods, No Master Volumes. That's super fun. They interview pedal builders, guitar builders and manufacturers, just people who make gear, and it's great. They're really wonderful interviewers. It's very unpretentious and it feels very cozy, and you just get a ton of information from guys that you really want to hear from. So like I said, this thing's a home run for me. I love it to death. I'm going to be using it all the time, and yeah, you will too. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. If you're not subscribed, please consider hitting that subscribe button. I really do appreciate it. Like, share, comment, all of that stuff. And if you're already subscribed, thank you so much. Links for everything I'm using in the description below, and I'll see you next time. Peace.